Our topic for today is sharing the faith with others. And it was somewhat strongly suggested by several of our mission companions when we asked folks to give a little bit of input for this next year. But we had kind of chosen to go this way before we settled on the theme for the next year, which is actually going to be looking at virtues and saints. And so if you're looking for something, I'm going to be doing some work probably with another group called, on the book, The Heart of Virtue by Donald DeMarco. Really, really excellent book. And what he's chosen to do is kind of highlight a series of virtues and give stories connected to it from saints and from other folks from literature. And it's an outstanding book. So if you're looking to kind of do a little bit of reading on what we're going to be addressing this year, that's one place to go. I want to share a little bit, at least from my own perspective, on what I think is helpful in terms of sharing the faith with others. And I unquestionably think that the principal means of witnessing our faith to others is the humble example of our lives. There's just no doubt about it. That is the most powerful way in the end that I think that our faith gets spread. And so, when we live with joy, when joy kind of animates our lives, a joy that is deeper than, I don't know, the Commanders winning the Super Bowl, those kinds of things, a joy that runs a lot deeper than that. When it pervades our lives, people see it and they think, there's something different about this person, right? When we see a peace that reigns in our hearts, that reigns there even through life's many ups and downs, and maybe even in particular during life's downs, when people see that, they say, there's something different about this person. When the purpose with which we live our lives, knowing that we come from God and that we're going back to God, and knowing that while we're on this earth, we have a mission to know, love, and serve God on this earth, and to be focused on God and others rather than on ourselves. When people see us living with a mission, they say, there's something different, there's something attractive about this. And in the end, really, I think the charity and the deep care that we express for other people, that is quick, that is humble, that is sacrificial, when people see that, they say, what's going on here? What makes this person tick? And think of Mother Teresa. She didn't care what faith you were, what country you were from, what your religion was. She didn't care. If you were hurting, she was going to love you. And that's what her sisters do. And it's an unbelievably powerful witness all over the world, right? A word about a kind of respectful confidence in our faith. I think that too is a powerful witness. And so when we really come to know and love Jesus, really in the depths of our being, I think that we have a certain quiet confidence about our faith that is also very powerful in its witness. And so this makes us kind of be able to just give witness to our lives that we have found a pearl of great price. We have found the treasure. We've sold everything for that treasure. And it just brings a certain calm and confidence into our lives. And so in that situation, then I think we can be humble, and that we don't have to present the faith with anger, with an edge, with a sense of arrogance, a sense of judgment upon other people who don't have faith. And I think that there's, again, something attractive about that approach to living and sharing the faith with other people. It's one of the things that makes me a Christian is the fact that I love the fact that Jesus doesn't force us to believe in him. He could, if I suppose, if he wanted to, he could just kind of make us all believe in him. But that's not his approach, because it's not the way of love, right? The way of love makes an offer and asks for a return. And that's the way that he has chosen to go. And so he doesn't force the faith. And so we can't force the faith, even when we kind of want to, maybe particularly with our children, right? But we just can't. And so, and we also know that most of the time the faith is more caught than taught, right? It is taught, and the truths of our faith are extremely important. But oftentimes, it is something that's kind of caught from people who are around us in the example, again, of their lives. But again, I think when we show a tremendous amount of respect for other people, and this sense that I'm not going to force something upon you, I do think that that opens up their hearts to consider the faith in different ways. Certainly, another angle to sharing the faith that is just critical and very powerful is our genuine care for our neighbor. For us in Youth Apostles, these are pretty fundamental principles in our work with young people that applies to anybody, adults, whatever. And there's just no doubt about it. But I think when we show a genuine interest in another person's life, that can open up their heart to Christ. And by that, I think it means, taking the focus off of ourselves and, putting a genuine focus on them. I think it means, asking them questions about their life that demonstrate a genuine concern about what's going on in their life. And then remembering at least a few things that they say and asking follow-up questions, both in the moment, follow-up questions that are relevant, follow-up questions that show that you were listening, follow-up questions that show care, and then asking follow-up questions later on about their life, the next time that you see them, to have the gift, to make the effort to remember and to ask those follow-up questions. Then I think, being able to, especially with young people, but this works with adults too, is to call out their gifts, to recognize their gifts. And perhaps they know them, but everyone finds it helpful once in a while to see that someone else appreciates the gifts that God has given to me, right? and I think that that's a critical thing. And I know that when I was young, and when I had coaches, and when I had youth ministers, and when I had priests who were willing to call out gifts that I had, it was very encouraging, right? I think that when we offer to assist with a difficult task, and when we show that our care is truly sacrificial, I'm willing to stop doing what I'm doing. I'm willing to set aside my Saturday afternoon. I'm willing to do something for you. I'm willing. I just read a text just now. My nephew is supposed to host something on Sunday for the family, something new that we're starting to do. And he says, I'm on my way to the hospital in my car that I've gotten sick in, and I may have to cancel this Sunday. And my sister, his mother, said, where are you? I'm coming right now. I'll come and clean up your car. I mean, just immediately. I mean, that's family, but that's sacrificial love. I think that these are the kinds of things then that open up people to faith, because they see something different in you, and then, maybe this God of theirs is real, right? And so, St. Augustine in his conversion, St. Augustine's conversion certainly was, I guess principally probably a matter of being enamored with the beauty of the faith, right? He was just so brilliant, and it was traveling all over the world, especially in Europe at that point, though he was from Africa, to learn all of the latest trends that were in the intellectual world and the latest religions. So he was actually a Manichaean for a while there, which was one of the great tragedies there in those days, taking people away from God, really. And it was, and so he goes to St. Ambrose because he hears that he's a great orator, and he's listening to him, and he's impressed with his speaking skills, but then he begins to listen to what he's saying, not just how he's saying it. And then he really builds a relationship with St. Ambrose and begins to really believe in these beautiful truths that he was proclaiming as a bishop. But Augustine himself mentions in his Confessions that in the end, what got him over the hump was the fact that Ambrose cared for him personally. That was what got Ambrose over the hump. And of course, Augustine became one of the most significant, important saints in the history of Christianity. Now, on again, a little bit more of a practical level, I think that one attitude to take as we approach our faith and discussions is important. And this is that I find that most of the time when I'm engaging with people who are inquiring or who are not interested at all, I think that so often the way that I find it most effective is to speak about how God has done great things in my life and the impact that the faith has had on my life. And so to talk about how, gosh, when I was younger, there were just some times when I looked out on the world and I looked at the ugliness, I looked at war, I looked at these things, and I just wondered, is there a good God? And this happened, and it helped me, recognize that. Or, just last week I was, celebrating Mass, and the Lord just hit me with this sense of His humility. To talk about the ways in which our faith impacts us rather than saying, you should really do this. And I can't believe that you don't go to church on Sundays. And I can't believe that you haven't given God a chance. How is God impacting me rather on how God should be impacting you or how you should be doing things differently or how you are wrong, that just doesn't normally work. And I at least that's been my experience. Finally, I left something out here for the end on purpose. And I would say that the most important factor in spreading the faith is, quite frankly, God and His grace. And it is His grace that is what ultimately gets into people's hearts and lives. And so God does the heavy lifting in all of these situations. And it is Christ, in the end, who comes and knocks on the door of everybody's heart and says, let me in. And so our prayer is an extremely important part of this process, right? And our recognition that Jesus is the one who's doing the heavy lifting. We are instruments, but we are simply instruments. And it is His grace that does the real lifting in these situations. And I think that that's important. I want to finish with a story. I always hesitate about these things, but I'm gonna go with it. And so this is a letter that I received from a young woman named Martha Rogers a little while ago, and I think it just speaks about this process. So she said, "Hi, Father Jack. I have written this note so many times, but somehow I've never sent it. You may or may not remember me. I was Martha Rogers." I could not forget Martha Rogers, let me tell you. I was Martha Rogers then and attended Marymount from 2003 to 2007. And you received me into the church at the Easter Vigil in 2016. After that, we mostly lost touch. I wanted to say thank you for your passionate witness for Christ and His church while I was at Marymount. I tell people frequently that a huge reason I joined the church was because how you celebrated the Mass. Rarely have I seen so reverent a consecration. This is not my point of saying this. Your humor and your consistent witness to the truth drew me to the faith. Your willingness to discuss the faith with me patiently, rationally, consistently led to my conversion. And that conversion, well, it has led to so much more. I went to study moral theology and ethics at Catholic University of America. I got my law degree in 2011. But most significantly, I met my husband at CUA. We got married in 2011. We both freely say that we chose one another because of our commitment to holiness. And I pray that our marriage is a hymn of praise to Him who made us. How beautiful is that? We have 6 precious children, Francis in heaven, and then names them. We're grateful for these blessings and remain hopeful for many more. I haven't spoken with her in a little while. I'm not sure where they landed. The family would not be here without you, as if this were not enough. Both of my parents converted, my mother in 2009 and my father in 2011. They both constantly rejoice at receiving the gift of faith, even at their advanced age. They were in their 60s at the time. Neither one was religious at all before they became Catholic. As you may or may not remember, I was raised atheist. Thank you. Thank you so much for giving me the truth of the faith, for giving me my first Eucharist, for working for the salvation of my soul. I have never left this faith since you gave it to me 15 years ago. I have wrestled with it. I have struggled at times mightily, but the seeds you have planted have grown deep in my heart and soul. It is not easy to be Catholic, especially in this day and age when evil comes even in the form of many shepherds within the church. But it is still a font of deep, abiding joy. Thank you. You taught me to pray my first rosary. You heard my first confession. You gave me my first Eucharist. I remember you constantly in our nightly family prayers. That's enough. But I think it's an example of kind of that patience with people and being truthful and honest with ourselves and with them. And so you never know. And we may have the opportunity to be an instrument in God's hand for one person, and then they can bring other people into the faith. And so this is how the faith spreads. This is how the faith needs to spread. And so want to finish with just a quick question for you, because I mentioned that. And I'd love to hear just either like one story or one thing you think I'm missing, or one element of this process that has either impacted your life at some point, or maybe in some way that you've impacted another. But just a quick opportunity for you to share something about this gift of sharing our faith with others.
For me, I learned years ago that there's a difference between being catechized, which we were growing up, and then evangelized.
Right.
And it was a young professional, a dear friend of ours, who actually evangelized me, and it was her witness, like that woman described, how she lived and her joy and her love of the faith. So it's really, I see that, especially in the home, you try to catechize the children, but then they have to take it as their own and be evangelized, and that's where I find it hard with our own children.
It is. Yeah. In the home is one of the hardest places for this process to take on. But it's also one of the most important place for it to go on.
But
There's no doubt.
witness of somebody else that
Yeah.
really inspires you to grab it as your own.
Mm-hmm. And, I think that that's one of the reasons why Youth Apostles exist, quite frankly. Our hope, our goal, our desire is that every kid grows up in a home where the faith is lived and professed and done well, and that the seeds are planted, and that's where it needs to go on. But I also think that at some point in every kid's life, they need to see it from someone else. They need to have it witnessed. They need someone else who really cares for them and who really knows Jesus to have an impact to kind of get them to the next level, or to seal and solidify what's really going on best in the home. And that's one of the reasons why Youth Apostles exist, for the sake of young people on that front. Kevin, what am I missing?
No, I thought it was beautiful. Your letter pointed to the sacraments.
Yeah.
That you brought her to these sacraments, and that becomes, because she's not a part of your life at this point, but she remains close to the Lord because you instill the sacraments in her, which is huge. And so
Good point.
Our friends to the sacraments, because we may fall distant from them, but they will always have the Lord through that.
Good point.
I think one more thing is when you get to that, when you're getting to know someone and you know them on a personal, is eventually challenging them.
Yeah.
So one particular, for my own personal situation, was talking to a friend who I've known for a while, who I know is going to Mass, and it's like, hey, when's the last time you've been to confession? That
Yeah.
challenge, I mean, it's an important, you don't do it, the first meeting, second meeting, you have to get to know them. And so, when he says, oh yeah, I haven't been in 25 years, it's like, how can I help you with that?
That's a great point.
And so
That's a great point. Yeah, I mean, at some point, we do need to make an ask. We do need to offer a challenge. That's a great point. I think I will add that to my notes. Thank you. Very good point. It's true. And in the end, it's, well, I mean, from a youth apostle perspective, while we're doing that kind of work out there, trying to get to know young people and get into their world, then in the end, we kind of sometimes call it earning the right to say, hey, listen, I've got a Bible study on Wednesday morning before school. Will you come? Or, we've got a service trip coming up, or we've got a summer camp. Would you please consider coming? I would love to have you come and join us. I think it would be a great blessing for you. We do need to make the ask and the challenge. But God, what's definitive in my mind is that God wants to use every single one of us to spread the faith to other people. And so we have to think, we have to pray, we have to ponder, we have to have it on our mind, right? Not to be I'm not a fan of the aggressive approach. Not to be aggressive, but to be mindful and to be asking God to be an instrument of grace in the lives of other people so that more people may come to know and love this beautiful gift of Jesus Christ that's been given to us. Yeah.